Hi, fourth graders, it's Mrs. Seitz. Today we're going to review adding and subtracting whole numbers and decimals. And let's get started. The first one, Inez is 12 years younger than Raul. Raul is 6 years older than Kaylee. And Kaylee is twice as old as Henry. And Henry is 5. What is the combined age of all 4 people? I see combined. That means plus or times. When I look at this problem, one thing I know my kids would already be raising their hand telling me is, Miss Seitz, this is a T-chart problem. And what we mean by T-chart, I think I've shown you before, we just draw a big T. And whenever you hear that someone's older than someone or younger than someone or twice as old or twice as younger, then we always make a T-chart because usually, and if you look at the question, they're doing it here, usually they ask you to add all the people up at the end. Or sometimes they may ask, what's the difference between this person and that person? And if you don't have a T-chart, it can get really confusing on which numbers belong to which person. So it just helps us to keep it neat and organized. So let's we have Inez, we have Raul, we have Kaylee, and Henry. And this one is what we also call a backwards problem. In order to solve a problem like this, they have to give you one of the ages of one of the students. And usually they give you the last person at towards the end of the word problem. And that's what they did. Henry was 5. So we put Henry is 5. And then I'm going to cross it out, and we're actually going to work our way backwards up to the first sentence. So now if I go to the previous sentence, it says Kaylee is twice as old as Henry. Well, twice means times 2. So if Henry's 5, I'm going to go do 5 times 2. Notice I did not try to multiply inside my chart because then that just makes it messy. Go do your work to the side. So Kaylee is 10. So we're going to put our 10 here. I'm going to just cross it out as I back up. Now I'm going to go to the one right before that. Raul is 6 years older than Kaylee. Well, if he's older than her, then that means I'm going to add. So I'm going to take Kaylee, which is 10, and I'm going to add 6. And that gives me 16 for Raul. And then I'm going to just cross it out as I move my way back up to the first sentence. Inez is 12 years younger than Raul. Well, if she's younger, that's going to mean minus. So I'm going to take Raul, which is 16, and I'm going to minus 12. And that makes her 4. Now it says to combine all 4 people. Well, I'm going to come and I'm going to line up my numbers. I'm going to make sure I put Henry and Inez, which are 5 and 4, lined up in my ones place, not my tens place. 6 and 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15. 1 and 1 is 3. So their total amount is 35 years. So just remember, anytime they tell you someone's more or less than someone, make sure you make a T-chart because it helps you to keep it all straight so that if they do ask you at the end to add them all up, you won't miss anybody. Jamie's parents have saved $73,893 for her education. Tim's parents have saved $74,989 for his education. And Ian's parents have saved $72,984 for his education. How much more has Tim's parents saved than Ian's? Well, more in the question means minus. Now, it did not say someone was more or less than someone, but I'm still going to make a T-chart because I have 3 kids and I want to make sure I keep their amounts straight. So Jamie was 73,893. Tim was 74,989. And Ian was 72,984. If I go back to my question, they wanted Tim and Ian. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Jamie. I don't need her. So I'm going to make sure I put my larger number on top. So that would be my 74,000. And I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5. 8 minus 8 is 0. 9 minus 9 is 0. And 4 minus 2 is 2. So $2,005 more more is what Tim's parents have saved than Ian's. All right, the next one. Ticket sales for the middle school football playoff game began last week. A total of 6,000 tickets were sold in 3 days. On Monday, there was 3,156 tickets sold. On Tuesday, there was 1,997 tickets sold, and the remaining were sold on Wednesday. How many tickets were sold on Wednesday? So again, nobody's more or less than anyone, but just to keep it straight, I'm going to make a T-chart. Monday was 3,156. Tuesday was 1,997. And Wednesday, we don't know what Wednesday was. But we do know that the total was 6,000. So I could also make a strip diagram here. We've been doing those a lot when we do our word problem of the day. Since I know my total, I would put it on top. Monday was 3,156. Tuesday was 1,997, and we don't know Wednesday. Now remember, anytime we have a strip diagram and we know the total and we're missing a part, then that's either a subtraction or a division strip diagram. Now I know I'm not going to divide because my parts are not the same number. In order for it to be division, these parts at the bottom would have to be equal or the same, and they're not. So that tells me it's subtraction. Now I can do this one of two ways. I can go take my 6,000, subtract the 3,156, and then once I get my answer, I can go minus the 1,997 from my answer. I don't particularly care for that way just because I have to subtract twice, and I rather not subtract twice. So one thing I've always told my students is that anytime you're missing someone over here, always add up what you have and then subtract it from the total. So we're still minusing, but rather than have to minus twice, we're going to add up these parts first and then we're going to minus. But like I said, the other way will work also. So first I'm going to go take my 3,156 and my 1,997 and I'm going to add them up. So 7 and 6 is 13. 9 and 1 is 10, plus 5 is 15. 9, 10, 11, 3, 4, 5. So we got 5,153, but don't fall for that banana because I still have my second step. After I add them, I still have to subtract it from the total. But you better believe they're going to have that choice there to make you fall, see if you'll fall for it. So don't fall for it. You still got to do your second step. Big numbers on the bottom, so I go borrow. The 6 becomes a 5. 0's a 10, then a 9, 10, then a 9. Last one's a 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. 9 minus 5 is 4. 9 minus 1 is 8. 5 minus 5 is 0. So on Wednesday, they sold 847 tickets. Now this last one you can see looks a little bit different. It's one that I just made up. I noticed on our last checkpoint there was a question similar to this, and I don't know how you did on your test, but a lot of my kids in my room missed this one. And they missed it for two different reasons. One, it was a two-stepper. It was a T-chart problem. Some of them forgot to do this T-chart and they missed the second step. The other thing was that this confused them that this was an 8 and this was a decimal. And then that they didn't know how to line it up. So let's look at this one. Hope walked 8 miles last week. Jennifer walked 475 miles more than Hope. So that's a T-chart because Jennifer is not 4.75. She's 4.75 more than Hope. And here's that question: how many total miles did the girls walk? They always make you usually add the girls up at the end. So if we make our T chart, Hope and Jennifer. Hope is 8. That 8 is 8 holes. So if you put your width from when we did decimals, if my 8 is 8 holes, I'm going to put it over here in the hole spot. And then I'm going to put my decimal and I'm going to put 0 in the back. One mistake my kids were making is when it said Jennifer was 4.75 more than Hope, since more's before the question, they knew to add, but this is what they did. They put 4.75 and they put an 8 here. Well, if you put the 8 there, you're actually, if I fill this in, you just made that 800ths. And that's not 800ths, that's 8 holes. So they'll have an answer for you because they know kids make that mistake, and there'll be a choice there for you to pick, and you'll end up getting it wrong. So just remember, if you have a whole number and you've got to add it or subtract it to a decimal, you always, and you need to change that whole number to a decimal too so you can line them up correctly. You always put the decimal after the whole number with 2 zeros in the back, because it is a whole number. And if you forget how to do it, then just write your width, go put your 8 in the whole spot, put your decimal, and fill in the rest with zeros, and that'll help remind you how to line it up. So now I'm going to do Jennifer. Jennifer is 4.75 more than Hope. So I'm going to take my 8, and if she's 4.75 more than Hope, that means to add. And 8 and 4 is 12, and I drop my decimal down. Now, here's another big mistake. Even if you got the 8.00 correct, some of my kids made the mistake because they picked 12.75 as their answer, and that was a choice. That could have been a choice too. But the question did not ask for Jennifer. The question asked for the total of both the girls. So that's why it's very important to make your T chart, because if you don't make your T chart, you'll forget about Hope. You'll think that once you add it, you're done. But no, when you add it, all you did was figure out Jennifer. So don't forget about Hope. You still got to go add Hope in. So we're going to take Jennifer, who was 12.75, and we're going to take Hope. Make sure to line up your decimals, which was 8, and we're going to add them up. So all together, they went 20.75 miles. So very important when you are doing a problem and it says somebody is more or less than somebody, go make a T-chart. Take those few extra seconds, make a T-chart, because more than likely the question is going to make you add up both the people or all the people. And if you don't make the T-chart, when you do that first step, you're going to be very tempted to pick that choice and get it wrong. If you make the T-chart, it helps you remember that first person from the beginning of the word problem so that you remember to add that person in too. So just be careful when you're working those today. You might see one.